Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today on the channel we're going to be talking about Transformers Rise of the Beast. Before we dive into that though, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, movie reviews, lists, and podcasts, we try and do them all here on the channel, and nothing would help this channel out more than by just simply liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So Transformers Rise of the Beast came out in June of 2023. It is directed by Stephen Cable Jr., who you guys might remember directed the second Creed movie, and it stars Anthony Ramos, who many people might remember had a star-making performance in the film In the Heights a couple years ago, and it stars Dominique Fishback, who also had a star-making performance in Judas and the Black Messiah, but I've had her on my radar ever since she did a great job in the movie The Hate U Give. But there's also an array of great voice actors in this movie, including the fantastic Michelle Yeoh, Ron Perlman, and in a surprisingly really good voice acting performance, Pete Davidson. And this film is slightly based on the Beast Wars storyline, which is a very popular storyline with Transformers fans. And as many of you guys might know, I'm not a big Transformers film fan. I just never have been. I like the 1980s animated film, and I really felt like the franchise was heading in the direction that I would appreciate with the movie that Bumblebee starring Haley Steinfeld that came out in 2018. But I remember at the time the box office was considered a disappointment, and that the producers, who include Michael Bay, again on this film and on Bumblebee, wanted to kind of go back to the roots of the franchise that made it popular, because even if I don't enjoy these movies, it is one of the biggest money-making franchises of all time. We kind of saw a dwindling box office towards the end with the Mark Wahlberg films, but then Bumblebee was kind of considered a breath of fresh air, at least for critics, and people who probably aren't fans of the franchise that much. It was much more grounded. It kind of told just like a very small Transformers story, and this film is actually a direct sequel to that movie, but you wouldn't know it other than one passing line in this movie. And the basic premise of this movie is that a planet-eating god named Unicron is going around planet to planet just sucking up all of its energy, but luckily at the very beginning of this movie, he can't go galaxy to galaxy like he wants to, because luckily for everybody else, the Maximals put a key that would have allowed him to go galaxy to galaxy. They hid it from him, they took it away, they put it in this big Falcon thing that actually does look like the Maltese Falcon. I wonder if that was a little hint at that. I'm not 100% sure, but I did get Maltese Falcon vibes from that, which I thought was pretty cool. And then they hid that from him, but he sends out his terror bots to go try and find this thing, and at the very same time, we are on Earth in 1994. This is where we meet Anthony Ramos' character and Dominique Fishback's character. Dominique Fishback works at a museum, basically just getting treated horribly, even though she's smarter than everybody else there, but she's still an intern, so she has to, basically just shovel crap, even if she is the smartest and is doing all of her boss's jobs. She uncovers this key at the very same time that Anthony Ramos' character, he was stealing a car, which actually turns out to be the Transformer Mirage, voiced by Pete Davidson, and, Optimus Prime is trying to get everyone together because they are searching for this key. That's the big MacGuffin of this movie. And at the very same time, the Terrorbots are searching for this key on Earth. They somehow found out that it's here as well, and now we got ourselves a movie. And I really liked some of the aspects of this movie. I just feel like the worst part about this movie is its script, and if you look, it has at least 4 writers on it. This movie had numerous production companies, so it had a lot of hands in the kitchen to try and get this movie the way they wanted it to be. And I feel like as good as Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback are at acting, the script is just not that good, and they have to say lines that just come off corny and cheesy to me, and I really just didn't appreciate that, because I know that they are great actors, and then when they had to portray certain emotions, especially Anthony Ramos, and you could just tell he was acting against the green screen because of all the CGI going on around him, that even though he wanted to portray emotion, it was probably really hard for him. So I kind of can't fault them, but I didn't think that both actors turned in their career best performances, but I do feel like that was the fault of the script, which I think is the biggest flaw of this film. And of course tying that in with the big monster CGI fights, which did look better than any of the Michael Bay movies. I do still feel like this was better than any of the Michael Bay Transformers movies. It's just not as good as Bumblebee, which is where I thought the franchise was heading, and this kind of feels like a half step back from what Bumblebee was, which is unfortunate. Bumblebee does appear in this movie, and I like now that instead of talking through music, he can actually just basically just rattling off movie quotes, which was like speaking to my heart, so I really did appreciate seeing that. And Peter Davidson's Mirage has the the real human connection with Anthony Ramos' character, and I felt like that connection was really good, and I was surprised at how good Pete Davidson actually did in this movie. I really enjoyed his performance as a voice actor. Didn't expect that from him, so I was really happy to see that. But the movie was just really hard for me to get invested in its storyline. You know, I'm just not the Transformers guy for that. I feel like the fans, though, were very happy with it, and the Rotten Tomatoes score illustrates that. The critic score is much lower than the audience score, and the audience that I saw this with when the movie ended, they stood up and they clapped, so they were really happy about it. I saw this with Matt. If you guys remember Matt, he was happy with the movie, so I feel like this movie is definitely operating in that area of fan service, and I feel like the fans of the Transformers franchise are definitely going to be walking out of this movie much happier than people like myself who are not. I felt like the third act just turns into the stereotypical summer blockbuster third act that we get in all of our movies, right down to the MCU and DC films nowadays, where it just has to become a CGI mess that, for me, I just can't help but not like how that looks. You could just tell that it's all artificial, and even though the fight scenes are much clearer than the Michael Bay franchise Transformer movies, they just still don't work for me, and I really just did not care at the end of the day about this movie when it came down to the conclusion. I just felt like that was kind of forced, a forced ending here, and I just feel like, okay, so that's it now. Every movie franchise in the world has to have their own connected universe. Is that what we're going for here? I get it, but I felt very forced in at the end, and I don't know how many people were expecting it. It felt like it came out of left field, but I really personally did not even care at all about that. But that's just my opinion on it. Maybe a lot of people did, and if you did care about that ending, let me know in the comment section below. But overall, how would I rate Transformers Rise of the Beast? Well, for me personally, I didn't think it was that great of a film. I did appreciate the actors. I thought they were doing the best they could, but they were working against a pretty bad script. I didn't appreciate the third CGI act that we got, the CGI mess. I thought that that wasn't the greatest. But again, it's always cool to see Optimus Prime back and Bumblebee. Those are the two Transformers characters I always had a connection to. Me and probably most non-Transformers fans, we all know Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, but I still think it's cool to see them pop up on the screen and do their thing. So I had fun with that at the very least. So I can't say that this movie was a total failure, because I still think it's better than any of the Michael Bay Transformers films, but I still don't think that this movie is that great. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to change your perspective if you're not a Transformers fan. And if you are a Transformers fan, I do feel like you're going to be walking out of this theater pretty happy. But if I'm doing the scoring and I'm rating this on a score of 1 to 10, I'm going to give this an alright 6 out of 10. But anyway, guys, if you guys enjoyed this review of Transformers Rise of the Beast, nothing helps this channel out more than by just simply liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and then after you're done doing all that, maybe go out and tell all your friends. And if you have any friends who have Transformers, tell them about us, and we'll be seeing you around.